In 2019, New Jersey passed landmark legislation which essentially gave victims of child sexual abuse the right to come forward and potentially file a civil action against the entity that may be negligent or responsible for the child sexual abuse. A lot of times, certain organizations, certain entities, they bear responsibility for child sexual abuse in addition to obviously the pedophile that did these horrible things. The organizations that people hear a lot about in the news are the Boy Scouts of America, the Catholic diocese, various schools, various private organizations, even towns. They are now, and sometimes they bear responsibility for negligence. Prior to 2019 in New Jersey passing this legislation, the statute of limitations was 2 years after somebody turned 18 years old. So, if a victim of child sexual abuse turned 18 years old, they had until they were age 20 to bring a lawsuit. And the prior law before 2019 just was inconsistent with the psychology of victims of child sexual abuse. Psychology basically says if you're a victim of child sexual abuse, you're not going to really come forward with it in a lot of times right when it happens, or even when you're 18, or even when you're 19 or 20. A lot of people wait until they're later in life to do that. And what New Jersey did in joining that handful of states in 2019 is it recognized that, and it gave these victims the right and the opportunity to come forward to tell their story, and if somebody did something wrong, to bring a civil lawsuit against that entity and to hold that entity responsible. And it was landmark legislation. So this law that passes in 2019 opens up that window, and hundreds, if not thousands of people in the state of New Jersey came forward to tell stories and to tell what happened. And it was through that we developed a practice with some co-partners and colleagues that I work with that has really exploded. And that practice, we've developed essentially a subspecialty that handles victims of child sexual abuse regardless of when it happened in their age. One thing I've learned about representing victims of child sexual abuse, this is very obviously personal and sensitive, and not in a lot of situations something that the victims like to talk about. And each of these cases, each of these victims has an individual story to tell. And as the attorney, you really have to get personal with how that victim wants to tell the story. A lot of times they're open to it, and he or she wants to explain it in detail. A lot of times they don't. On many, many occasions, I'm the first person that the victim has ever spoken to about what happens to them. They have not told anyone in their family. They have not told their spouse. They have not told their children. It's the attorney that is getting into the deep feelings that the victim is going through. As an attorney that's representing victims, you need to be aware of that. And you need to be able to have that connection and take as much time as necessary. Contact us at Ram Law if you feel like you've been a victim of child sexual abuse and you think that you may have a case. There are no upfront costs, there are no expenses, the consultation is free, there is zero financial risk for you to answer these questions.